Hi, welcome to One for the Road, where we navigate sobriety, recovery, and life in general. Tune in as we share our experience and opinions while answering any questions you may have. My name's Marissa, and this is my co-host, Judy.
Hello.
Trying to have the conversation, who's trying to do the podcast without
the conversation before the conversation.
Right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification button. Check us out on Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. We're attempting to TikTok. We're not any good at it. Yeah. So there's that. So, okay, before we actually started recording, we started talking about our topic of the day, which is, what to do when someone like offers you a drink or drugs or, whatever, like what
do you do?
If you're committed to this like recovery thing and you're not trying to do those things and it's offered to you, like, what are you saying? What are you doing? Like, what's going on? Because that can be a very like real thing. So go ahead and now you may share.
I forgot what I was going to say now. No, I think that's the thing, right? I haven't been approached with, I'm going to go back. That's not really true. Not the drug of choice. Okay. I'm going to say that I have not been approached with my preferential drug. Right. However, I have been, offered, hey, just take this Valium or what, like, whatever. Maybe I don't even remember the circumstances, like being emotional or whatever. Right. And, my answer at that when being, given or offered drugs, has always been, it's not my prescription, right? Like I try, and so it's easy. I remember though, being offered alcohol and my answer is simply, I don't drink. I found that sometimes saying I don't drink, prompts conversations with people like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. And I have a friend in recovery who, and I love this. And if I'm ever asked again, if I'm interested in having a drink, I'm going to use her line is that, no, I'm allergic. And that kind of just shuts people down. It doesn't open up a conversation, whatever. So, because I've always said I don't drink and but there's always seems to be a conversation that needs to follow. Right. So, people ask questions and I have no problem answering those. I just, unless you have an alcohol and a drug problem, you're more than likely not going to understand what I'm saying anyway, and what it looks like for me if I just take that one, so that's what it looks like. But yeah, I have been offered pills, and and really kind of having to be in that whole thing of, where you have to keep saying no. Like, I think that saying, no, it's not mine, or no, I don't do that, or whatever. And somebody really not latching on to that idea that you've just declined, and they want to keep at you. And it's, I don't want to yell. I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to be able to say, no, thank you. And, I don't know. I have to look at it nowadays like it's not my problem. I have a problem with the drinking and the drugs, right? But my not doing it isn't my problem. My not doing it might be your problem, and I can't carry your shit. So that's what, that's been my experience.
Yeah. I love this story, cracks me up so much. It's one of my favorites. My sister always reference to it. She thinks it's the funniest thing in the world, but I got out of rehab. And again, like I've mentioned a million times, my sister was like my only friend. And her husband, and we had gone shopping. It was like the end of January. I got out of rehab like at the beginning of January. A couple weeks later, me and my sister are out shopping and we're at this like small little random boutique. Okay. Random boutique. They sell like personalized Christmas ornaments and door knockers and this and that and that. And it's just this cute little place. And we're there, and the lady comes out and she was like, oh, do you want to try like some cider or martini or some little like drink? And me and my sister looked at each other, laughed, and I was like, no, thank you. Like,
right.
Because no, thank you. Like, whatever. My sister, who's not an alcoholic, was just like, we're in a boutique and it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? But I thought it was so funny because for the first time that I was offered alcohol outside of treatment, it was at this like random little boutique. And we'd like been out to dinner and stuff like that. And I don't even think someone like gave me a drink menu, you know?
Right.
But it was just so random, but it's as simple as that, you know, like
For sure.
I don't get approached about taking other people's prescriptions or having a drink because my life's set up that way,
Sure.
right? Like I don't have people around me that aren't fully aware that I am in recovery. And I'm just not put in that situation a lot, you know, like I've gone to bars and not been offered like, you know, I know don't go sit at the actual bar, but like
Right.
gone
Event.
to a birthday party, whatever, you know, and you want something to drink. Yeah, I want water. Like, you know, I just don't have like people in my life that are like, why aren't you drinking? What's going on? You know what I mean? I have clients where I tell them, you know, they're like, oh, going out for a drink tonight. And I'm like, oh yeah. You know, cause some people don't need to know my life story. Like,
Right.
I mean, YouTube does, and the rest of the world potentially 100%, but not everybody.
All right.
But it is as simple, you know, I know there are people out there that like have, like don't tell their family and stuff like that. And I think sometimes a simple no, thank you. That's okay. But I love the idea I'm allergic, right? Because if you believe what I believe, I am allergic to alcohol, right? Like mentally, physically, spiritually, I am allergic to it.
Right.
It causes a bad reaction. But yeah, I think like having those excuses, having those things that just like shut people up, because you're right? I'm allergic. It's going to
Shut it down.
It
Yeah.
pretty quickly, you know, like if you feel the need to have to explain yourself, because I could just tell at this point, this far in with who I am today, I feel very confident in myself and I can say, yeah, no, thank you. And if someone pushes me, I can be like, no, thank you. You know, I also don't hang around in places where that's a thing. You know, that's how I conduct my recovery. You know, I'm not hanging out with people that are, if you're asking someone more than once if they want to drink, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Like that person has a problem. And then you may have a problem because who are you surrounding yourself with? You know, like I had to learn very early on to surround myself with people I could be honest with, meaning people I could tell like, hey, I don't drink and this is why. And total loss of train of thought, but that's how my life's set up. I just don't do it. And if I'm going out somewhere, why is somebody else asking me this more than once? Like,
right.
You know,
yeah, it's just been my experience. I mean, the people that I surround myself with today are too in recovery, you know what I mean? And they're doing what I'm doing. It's kind of how
Right.
it's set up, you know, but you know, you go to family events and even though people, you know what you're about and what you're doing, you know, do you want to drink? They still ask, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened in a couple of years. I will say that for sure. But you know, it's been not really an issue for me, right? Like I can say no, and then they'll go and get a drink and, you know, are you sure? You know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sure, you know, and so that kind of things happen. And then the more other people drink, they forget your original no. They forget your original no.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's that kind of thing, you know? And so, you know, and again, you know, if people don't have what I have, right, in this allergy, then to them, alcohol can liven a mood and it can liven a party and it can do those things. And so they, you know, it's hard for them to understand how I can still have fun and not take anything into my system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Aside from iced tea or water, right? Like they can't grasp that. And if this is going to make their time better, well, wouldn't it
if
make
you
mine?
can't grasp that someone can have fun without alcohol, you may have a problem. let me just put that out there.
Right. You know, and that's the thing, you know, and I will tell you this though, there's a lot of people who remember, you know, family included, right? That and those are really the same people that I, would be dealing with today, that remember a time when I would be that ringleader, when I would be that, and so it's hard for them to, I would imagine, right, without reading their mind, it's hard for them to differentiate, this old version versus 2.0, right? The sober one. And so if you always saw me with the drink in my hand and then being the quote unquote supposed life of the party, it's different for them. There's a learning curve for those people too. So, just really always sticking to your guns. And I like the idea. I really do. I'm a fan of I'm allergic because it does, it prevents the conversations.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, I was just thinking about it. Sometimes you're in positions, I used to work like a corporate job and we would have like corporate parties and stuff like that. And I'm not in that kind of line of work anymore, but, if I were someone who was like getting sober and I had to go to these like work parties and stuff,
been there,
like
done
that,
it for sure.
Yeah. Like it was suggested, in an effort not to like completely out yourself, and it's not everybody's business, whatever, like just have a drink in hand already. You know what I mean? Whether it's I'm just not of the belief that people are that concerned about what's in your cup, but some people are like, oh, put the lime on the Coke glass and, get the little straw and you'll look like you already have like a drink, and so I always walk around. Like at my cousin's wedding, I would just walk around with like my water and whatnot, because something was occupying my hand. So nobody's asking me if I'm drinking anything. Sure. If I have something in my hand already, like that's just not the thing. But that's also a way that people you kind of like cut it off before it even gets started, right? Before you even have a chance to ask me a question, I already have a drink in hand. You don't need to worry about it. Like we're good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so those are some of the things that help just like navigate those situations.
For sure.
Maybe I would use, I am as a person. I'm just like, just tell them no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean? Well, for sure. But you're, and you mentioned work events, we're opening we were opening new offices, and that's a big thing. People love to serve the wine and do the stuff, and I also found another great thing that I used at work a lot, rather than no, I'm not drinking or no, I don't drink, was, I'm driving. Not to mention that the other 30 people at the party were driving, but it's very hard to say, oh, you can have one and still drive your car. You don't know what I can do, right? So, I've also found just say, no, I'm driving. Yeah. Those were the excuses, it was corporate and that's what they did, and so, being confronted with those things, it's always good to have just a couple things in your back pocket. I'm a fan.
I'm on medication.
Yeah.
I'm on medication. That's one too.
Right.
You could think of like a million things to say. And I think like the longer I stay sober, the less concerned I am about being like, yeah, no, I'm good. And I don't let anybody push me around either. Like that's not a thing. So like, I'm not feeling pressured. But if you are someone who is concerned or feels like you need to have an answer for somebody, those things, I'm allergic, I'm taking medication, I'm driving, like any of those excuses are good things to have like in your back pocket. It is nice to, and I feel like, if you're going to be put in well, maybe not, right? Because I walked into the boutique.
Right.
Did not expect that was going to be where I was offered my first drink out of rehab, which is still to this day the funniest thing to me. But if you are going to a work party, right? Like you can rehearse these things, right? Like, and you'll find that not a lot of people care what's in your drink. You know what I mean?
For sure. Like, I mean, and I will just say, there will be people I just want to, there's always that one person, right? There is always that one person who's like, are you sure? Like at work, I'm just, sure, yeah. I've experienced them, and for sure, again, it wasn't my problem. It's your problem that I'm not drinking. It's not my problem. I'm not drinking, but to just eliminate the wiggle room and, and having to explain and do stuff. I think it's, we've listed 3 things that really work, that there's no begging and pleading, from other folks, right? Or any additional information that needs to be provided based on what I've already given you, right? Driving, allergic, on medication. It's kind of a done deal. And then the other person will look foolish for continuing to ask,
Yeah.
So there are people in recovery though who still maintain some of those friendships with those people who don't get it, and in early recovery, right? And so until you get to that point where you're confident enough, right, or remove the people or whatever it'll look like for you, I think it's important just to know, you're not alone. Number one, we've been there, and so,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be in a bar, it can happen in a boutique.
Yeah. Lisa said, I think like if people aren't confident, it's in my early recovery, not that I was necessarily worried about being offered a drink or anything, but there's some power in having someone with you, right? Like having someone who either knows what you're going through and can totally help. Like my sister was someone who would like advocate for me if I couldn't, she would absolutely be like, no, she's good. Thank you. Like, trust me, not anybody in this world, she'd be the one. Someone who understands what you're doing, if you're going to these events, if you have to go somewhere where alcohol might be a thing and you don't feel confident and you don't feel, then take someone with you, whether it's somebody else who is also sober and can manage those things and has a little bit more experience than you do in this area, or just someone who
be a support person,
that's supportive and can help you, because sometimes it is hard to advocate for ourselves and it is hard to do those things. I don't doubt my ability to do it today, but 6 years ago, I probably would have been anxious to tell someone like, no, thank you, or, whatever. But it's always nice to have that support, if you, along with your excuses, right? Like along with your reasoning, your excuses and, whatever, if you feel you need to explain yourself, then have somebody go with you. Those are good ways to avoid, and someone can interject or whatever, people have been there, they get it. So
for sure. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. So that's that.
That's the 2 cents, 4 cents.
You're welcome. Yep.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification button. If you have anything you want to
add to the conversation,
add to the list, anything that you like to say to people when they ask you if you want to drink, and you say any clever things. I'm sure there's probably a lot of clever things out there that people say.
And we'd be interested. I
would really be interested to hear in people's like what they come up with to tell people like, no thanks. Like, what's that? Like, I'm allergic every time I drink, I break out in handcuffs or something.
For sure. Yeah.
Like that, people, that's funny. I like when people say that, but so like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff, and keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
That's all for today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification button so you know when new posts are coming up. Keep coming back.